How close to
Great. Thank you all for joining us. This kicks off our Solutions Hour programming for today. We are going to discuss the ideas of nature and conservation. Nature speaking, are you listening? Join us now for a conversation with Earth to Marrakesh, hosted by Sustainable Energy for All's Beth Woodthorpe Evans. She's joined by Conservation International Executive Vice President M. Sanjayan and actor and activist Lee Peace. I'll hand it off to you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Justine, and thank you to the United Nations Foundation and Earth to Marrakesh movement for hosting this. And it's a great conversation, and genuinely really excited and thrilled to be joined by two passionate advocates for this conversation. So obviously we're here at COP22, a COP focused on action and implementation. The Paris Agreement is now in force, something none of us expected this quickly and rapidly, which is a huge sign of the momentum. To achieve that, we're obviously going to need everyone involved, all areas moving forward and that momentum to continue. So as Justine mentioned, we're here today to talk about nature as a powerful solution for that and to offer different opportunities for us to move forward quicker. So Sanjay, on that, I would love to hear, as a starting point from your perspective at this year's COP, what do we need to do to progress forward and actually how can nature be that solution and provide some answers in that big question.
Sure, thank you. And it's great to be here as well. Just sort of feel the energy. So look, one of the big challenges that we have is that if we are to hold to the 2 degrees or 1.5 degrees Celsius targets that the world agreed to, it's an amazing moment. Everyone came together at the heels of a disaster that happened. And there's a sense of unity and a sense of momentum. We're trying to achieve that. And the reason is about 30% of the carbon emissions and reduction targets that we need to hit actually exist in nature. So if we continue to destroy forests, continue to destroy soils, continue to clear mangroves and coastlines and seagrass beds, no matter what you do. Now, the amazing thing about that is that only about 2% of the funding that's available for climate change today goes to this 30% of the solution. So, frankly, if you're looking for a really big play, this is a great place to make that play. It also helps people in lots of ways. It's probably one of the most equitable ways in which we can work on climate. Because forests, coastlines protect people, provide food, provide them jobs and opportunities, restoration of soils, helps farmers, so you can get multiple benefits from the same. That's why we, a coalition of other conservation organizations, push so hard to make sure nature has a seat at the table amongst the negotiations. Think emission reductions through mechanisms like efficiencies and policy outputs are important. We also need nature's carbon.
No, absolutely, and I know one of the areas of your work is focused around forests and the progress that's being made there. Now, in terms of next steps, talk us through that progress first of all, and how you think we continue to ensure that protection and what's next for forestry as a whole.
Right, so there are 2 areas that I'm really excited about. I'd say maybe 3. First is the big overarching sort of idea that you're seeing really played out here in Marrakesh, more so than I saw in Paris. And that is the notion that indigenous people and local communities, those who actually belong to this land, steward this land, are really stepping up and and saying these are, our forests, something that we have stored for a long time, and we need to be right there taking, action. So you're seeing that there's been momentum on forest conservation for a long time. Some countries are in the enviable place of actually planting more trees right now than removing. So we see that trend, we see that momentum, we want to see that. The other two areas that I'm actually really excited about, one is blue carbon, which is the protection of mangroves, seagrass beds, coastlines. Right now we know they, acre to acre, have more carbon than any other habitat on Earth. We just don't know quite how to quantify it and be able to trade it or sell it on the market. And that's something that we, Conservation International, and others are trying very hard to do. The last thing is finding an escape mechanism for airlines. So airlines are coming under scrutiny. They're clearly efficient. You walk through here and you'll see like models of jet engines. You can see why, right? So if you're flying a plane, you want to be as efficient as possible. There's only a certain limit you get to. And so, I think that protecting the forest gives airlines a mechanism by which they can unavoidable.
Great, and really interesting to hear about the, all the beds and the different opportunities it offers to reduce that. So Lee, I know you're equally as passionate and come to this. I'd love to hear about why you're so interested and committed. And obviously you've been working with Conservation International around their films, and really just about your journey into getting involved in this conversation.
Yeah, my understanding of climate change has always been, kind of this mind-boggling global inevitability that was going on, right? This doomsday since it's involved with Conservation International. I've met this core of scientists who are breaking down the problem and accumulating data and coming up with really innovative solutions to combat it. I've met policymakers and philanthropists who are demanding action, and I've met some indigenous people who are sharing their wisdom on what's new. And some of the problem becomes a lot more inspiring than it was before. So I guess from where I sit, I really see value in showing up and learning and finding my own way to participate in my life. I like parts of movies, and to have the opportunity to learn from people like that and be useful is a privilege.
Well, and we all play our part, and it's a hugely important one. And I think engaging everyone in those conversations and you doing what you're doing is critical. Now, I know you've got a new film coming out, and you're with Momentum for Change tonight at dinner to talk about that. Do you want to quickly tell everyone what that will be about and what that film will cover and your role in it?
I am voicing Mountain for Conservation International's nature speaking camp. It's this really great thing I'm excited to be a part of. It's these personifications of elements of nature.
I mean, look, we wanted, as a way of bringing nature to the table, we wanted to create a series of films. They were done by this creative genius, a guy named Lee Cloud, who is the guy behind Apple's Think Different campaign. The campaigns that brought the Mac to us and the iPad, right? This is the guy who did this. And he said, what happens if the ocean or the soil or the forest or Mother Nature or a mountain? And we had a series of amazing voices. Everyone from Harrison Ford, even our Ford, to Edward Norton, to Julia Roberts, Kevin Spacey, and Reese Witherspoon. Mountain was really something actually our Chinese audience wanted. Chinese, it's inspirational, and he had just come off playing this incredible role in The Hobbit, and the voice and the gravitas that he brings to that voice really seemed to imbue this mountain with its own abilities. What's interesting about these campaigns is that you don't see the actors themselves. They really are playing roles. They are playing the mountain. I should also say that one of our films for this conference, and we'll make it available online, we had a Moroccan singer and personality voice whole narrative. It's absolutely possible.
Brilliant. And what's it like to go from in front of the camera, taking on these great roles, like Sandra was saying, to voicing over, a total different character and really being able to get to grips with the science and the story behind it?
Well, I mean, it's just that it's a different way to find a character. And you think about a mountain sitting there quiet and waking up again. I guess our work is kind of a meditation on what that was. It's we've been talking a lot about storytelling and how storytelling is so valuable to this conservation work. Because storytelling is how we all understand our values. This idea of us coming around a fireplace, it's a permanent part of who we are, right? Now the community is global, right? And this problem faced with climate change, it's global. So those stories we tell each other are more important, actually more interesting. So this Nature Speaking campaign is very much a storytelling device. This is it's a personification of nature. Is something that is in every culture. So it's I think about it like when I was in school. We had a whole semester on that school, and I think about this character mountain as kind of like a max.
I think it's a great way to think about it, and also, like you say, brings the story to life and tells it. And storytelling is going to be a huge part of this process because, as we've all said and agreed, to achieve the Paris Agreement and the vision of the Paris Agreement, everyone needs to be involved. So I know something you were telling, and here at COP22, obviously, and we're here in the green zone, but negotiators are literally yards away from us, deciding and talking about the implementation and the action of this, the Paris Accord. So if you were to say to them, okay, here are the critical points for nature, obviously as part of this series, engaging everyone, what would those, what would you really want them to think about? Tying in all this aspect of joining communities, but the action and the opportunities it can deliver if we were to do it.
Sure. So here's what I would say to them very simply. I would say make sure that the mechanisms for protecting forests and other sources of nature-based carbon are firmly enshrined in not just the agreements, but also the mechanisms by which we can achieve it. That means funding, that means availability to actually move from an idea to action on the ground. It means making sure that the indigenous voices, local communities, those who live closest to nature, who care most about it, and who will feel the brunt of climate change the hardest, are firmly and fairly equitably represented within the agreements and within the steps you take to move forward. But most importantly, what I would say is not to the negotiators, but I would say that to civil society. Look, governments never lead. Let's put it this way, they very rarely. It's people who governments tend to follow. And the road to getting us to a place where we live with a stable climate is going to be long and challenging. It is going to be like climbing a mountain. And if you climb mountains, there is not one path up. Sometimes you'll get a great surge in momentum, and other times you have to go sideways or even slightly down in order to keep going up. It's very difficult for political actors to make that happen, but civil society has loads of mechanisms to continually zig and zag your way to the goal. I don't think Lee and I think you probably agree with this too, I don't think we really don't think that we will eventually come to grips with the reality of climate change and what we need to do to live in a world with an unstable climate, but also to then mitigate the worst of those things. I think we'll get there. The question is, are we going to get there with a lot of pain and suffering, or are we going to get there a little bit easier? Take the road that leads to less pain and suffering.
Absolutely, and I think the organisation I work for, Sustainable Energy for All, and I was really pleased to hear about people putting around, an equitable future and providing that and the access to sustainable energy is still something that's not, unfortunately, being achieved globally. I think 1.1 billion people don't have access to electricity, 2.9 billion don't have access to clean cooking. all elements that for us to achieve. And then obviously we go through different, people in different regions have to go and resort to nature in different ways than they probably want to be able to live and to prosper. So there are huge opportunities there.
I mean, look, my grandmother died from emphysema. She died at a very young age. She worked her life in a kitchen that didn't have windows. Didn't have windows. And she would go in there even during the daytime with a lamp. And she had a small hole that she could look through if someone was at the gate. She would know who's coming. I see my niece, who's 13 years old, who lives in Boston, in a glass house where the kitchen is massive in the center of attention. She can't believe that people live like that, even today. So this is not a far removed and hypothetical. This is real people who struggle with putting a meal on their table and can only use charcoal or wood stoves in order to cook that food or boil that water, right? So the ability to supply clean energy to the world, powered by the sun, is incredibly important. Help us with a table time which will help all of us. Whether Lee's on his farm in New York or whether he's in Africa. But it'll also materially benefit a lot of people.
Absolutely. And I think the human element, in 2016, it's crazy. And the human element is forgotten a lot in these conversations. And we can go further and we can go faster. It just requires everybody to move and to move together. But Billy, I know you travel around a lot, and I'm intrigued if there's any, because like we're just talking there are these great stories around the world that through this storytelling that you guys are doing, I think is so important and such a great opportunity. I'm really excited to watch and to see you as an artist. But when you've been traveling, are there stories that struck out, or talking to these people, how have you found the reaction in talking to them about what you do and your work with Conservation International?
I've been inspired more than anything because we've had a great year. We've been to Kenya, we've been to Iceland. We're talking about going to China. I've been to China before. I really love it there. I find it to be a really kind of vibrant place. There's no doubt we're in the 21st century. And I realized how much we have in common, how much we're actually moving in the same direction, and we're moving there together. Regardless if it's, Iceland, a place that they're completely sustainable, geothermal, power industry, we get it. Learned so much about what they were doing there and found it really, really inspiring. But when we were in Kenya, we saw a community supporting conservation, where they are the Samburu people have got this elephant picture to benefit from keeping elephants alive and establishing intelligence networks in the bush to figure out the bush situation. So everyone's coming together. This conference is a big part of that, and that gives me hope.
Yeah, great, and it is, and I think again it's all part of that connected picture by working together that we can continue that hope and that momentum. So obviously, it sounds a great year. That sounds a great itinerary.
Now we're in Morocco.
I know, ending on a high. So what next for Conservation International? How do you want to take this forward? And obviously here it's part of the Marrakesh Solution Hour. So, and again, it's all back to that idea of action and implementation. What would you love to do as your role, within this? What are you thinking next?
So there's a couple of things I'd love to, that we're going to push forward on. One is, to be working on forest conservation around the world. Doing that in strong partnership, hand in hand with indigenous communities and local communities. I think it's interesting. There is a third path of conservation that's open. I think it was always around. I think we were not ready to do it. Conservation was seen as the province of governments or rich individuals. Environmentally protected, or you have a law made. Now you're seeing 20% of the planet, which is really owned or managed or stewarded in some way by local. Providing us with this third path, I think it's very exciting, and I think the world is ready to hear that. So I'd love to see that continue. We're continuing to make films. We have over 2 million impressions in these films. Some of them have 60, 70 million. We want to get those films out, so I want folks to go to naturespeaking.org, conservationprofession.org. Make sure you follow it and watch the films and pass it along. We're also getting into virtual reality because it's a great way to immerse an audience in an environment. Lee and I and others are working on a project. It'll be out early next year to take people into the Amazon rainforest with indigenous communities and really see what storytelling actually looks like from their perspective and also from ours. So what's up? Last thing I'd say is you should go to conservation.org right now on Twitter or conservation.org, and we will tweet out how to join the Thundercloud. So all of you can be part of our community and send a message to it.
Great, and definitely sign me up for that virtual reality element. That sounds really exciting. And I know we can come back to the Thunderclap and remind people how to do it. But I think there was a video that your colleagues wanted us to watch, which is actually a bit of a teaser for the film you've been talking about. So maybe we can watch this now.
Glaciers and streams are forests, wood, clean air. Not here, I see them come to treat this world. We used to recharge your body and soul with calm in the forests. Once climbed my peaks and seeking them up. Now you take one, contemplate your own being. Looking around and see what you're still doing. Because there's one more thing that's in the cliff and all. The rocks below.
And I know that will be all the information on how everyone can watch it is available on the website. That sounds and looks great. I mean, incredible imagery there. Jealous of the people that get to go and record all that and and do all of that.
Well, they're mostly spending time with it at sound.
Yeah, Lee, I feel like you got the wrong element of the deal. Like, even the helicopters recording. But you did mention obviously the Thunderclap, which is available through your Twitter handle, and all the information is there. So I know, unfortunately, we've got to finish this conversation, and thank you so much for joining us. It's genuinely kind of fascinating, and I can't wait to go and watch and listen to more of what you're doing. And to end on in terms of a final thought, or
Grateful to be here. Glad you attended.
And I'll just say to people that, getting engaged, getting involved, you are the ones who lead, and that is no clearer, a great moment to be here on the planet and to have actually, this is your chance to be a hero.
perfect. So no easy task to be a hero and getting involved. And thank you again to the United Nations Foundation and really the Marrakesh movement that we've seen today, and to all colleagues. And yeah, thank you to Sanjo and to Lee. It's been great to have you here. Yeah, you were in the forest and then you were shooting a mountain. Yeah, yeah. Oh, thank you so much. We're pretty busy. Yeah, we've been all over the city. Yeah, but it's been exciting. Yeah. We did a very yeah. Yeah, but we're about to put on a panel and then
She's quite busy.
Thank you so much for so I'm with you organization. So you were the course experience last year. So much about that.
So I love what your foundation does. Turn as a whole
Yeah, exactly. We're so glad to support the climate action and we're also this is really what the real work is.
Thank you.
Most of the activities are digital search, so we kind of a little bit. You might be right. So I think that would be possibly take care. So let's see. Let me that was good. She was like, somebody and actually neither. So just like it all hit the center, we kind of
Yeah. For like,
Okay,
I'll say,
yeah.
I'll say kind of like,
No, it's
like hard.
that's a lot.
Send me a quick email. I'll reach out on it.
Yeah.
Everything we need to, I'll just coordinate the schedule. Initially, then today, eso más sorry. Thank you.
Join your hotspot, nothing else is happening.
Myself tried hard for the accreditation of Sergio Matthew. The first response we had that was that shut down the accreditation.
Get like
I'm still listening. Just here. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I've been for about 3 years. I did the communications for 4 years. But it's kind of exciting time. Yeah.
I feel a lot of great things. We're excited. We're excited.
Oh my gosh. Great. Human Foundation is non-partisan, but obviously can't whenever we're ready to go.
I can hear you also.
Hi all, thank you so much for joining us. This is the second of our Solutions Hour programming today for Earth to Marrakesh. I am here with Climate Reality Project CEO Ken Berlin. Thank you so much, Ken, for being here. We're going to keep this quick. I know you've got a lot to do, so this will be a lightning fire 10 to 15 minute discussion on the role of civil society and the role that individuals can play in both the creation and adoption of the Paris Agreement and looking forward. We've got some uncertain days ahead, so it'll be great to talk about the role that individuals can play in helping to support and promote the Paris Agreement into real action. Great. So Climate Reality Project was created by Al Gore, and the focus is really all about creating activists all over the world. Can you tell me a little bit more about its birth and inception?
With the Climate Reality Project goal is to build public support across all levels of society to address climate change. We think that's critical. In the United States, obviously, we've got a tremendous amount of opposition to addressing climate change. And we've got a tremendous amount of support. We need people to be active. We need people to be voters. We need people to speak to their representatives. And we are trying to do that at the level of creating individuals who do that, and then go out and do all the work that needs to be done. Outside the U.S., even where there's no denial, country leaders need support. Transitioning to a clean energy economy requires a major change in the country's economy. There'll be winners, there'll be losers. Want it to be just transition, of course, but leaders need the support to get this done quickly. There will always be reasons in every place not to do it, and they need the support to go ahead and make the hard decision to do it. And we're trying to build up that support. We do it by we train what we call climate reality leaders in 3-day training sessions. Al Gore speaks during them for 8 hours. We train people to be speakers, to be organizers. The average session we train between 500 and 800 people. Training this year in Shenzhen, China, the Philippines, and the United States. We have over 10,000 trained leaders. We also train people in smaller sessions, 3-hour training. This year we did 46 of them. This year and last year we did 46. And there we do it in specific constituencies. So in the U.S. we do it African Americans, East African Americans, Hispanics, faith-based people. So people can speak to their peers. Find to be a very effective way. And then we run programs to support all this.
I love the way that you, as you say, bring together these leaders all over the world. Is there a community focus, or are each one very similar, or are each one tailored for the specific region and the audiences that you're going after?
Well, each one is tailored to the audience we're going after in the substance of what we do. But the concept is the same. We're training people, speakers. We spend a lot of time doing that. And last year, our speakers did 2,500 speaking events, and they reached, we think, about 200,000 people. We want to expand that. But we do, of course, tailor the substance to each region that we're in so that it's relevant to the people there.
Great. So let's take a step back. The Paris Agreement, we're here at COP22 in Marrakesh, Morocco. This is the first international climate conference following the adoption of the Paris Agreement last year. The Paris Agreement was a labor of love. It was many years in the working. It was adopted in Paris last year, signed on Earth Day at the UN with the most signatures to an international agreement on a single day in history. And now over 100 countries have formally joined it. So talk to us a little bit about what it took to get us here. What was the role of civil society? What was the role of individual activists and your climate leaders to do it? And the role of the Climate Reality Project in general in shepherding this process and helping to guide it to final fruition last year in Paris?
Here in Paris was the 21st meeting of the parties. So it took 21 meetings of the parties to get to the Paris Agreement. So it was obviously a very, very difficult task with a number of failures along the way. And I think two things happened. One is the issue just percolated. I mean, it became the critical mass we're doing was just increased because of weather events, because public support building, because the economics of the implications. What civil society did was we worked very closely to build public support for this. At the Paris Agreement, Climate Reality did a petition supporting the agreement. We had about 2 million signatures. We worked with other environmental groups, and we presented to Ban Ki-moon 2 days before the agreement was signed, a petition signed by over 6 million people around the world, demanding action in the agreement. So our role in civil society, again, is to show that there's very strong public support for this. The public wants it. They demand that political leaders do it, and there'll be political consequences if they don't do it.
So what would you say to a person who thinks that the top is just about leaders, that there's really nothing much they can do? I can change my light bulbs, I can turn off my water, but what is that really going to do to help address the issue of climate change?
Well, I think people should do that, turn their lights off and be as energy efficient as possible. But again, I think they have to be politically active. And the important thing for people to understand is they're empowered. It's individual acts to get this done. Maybe millions of them. But it's individuals doing things to get something done. They're part of a big movement of doing it. There are millions of people doing it in the United States and other countries. But we can't do it without every single person. So our goal is to convince everybody that they can be and should be an activist, that if they are, if they know how to do their work, eventually we will win on this issue in the time period in which we need to win on it.
I love that. It's like the Mother Teresa quote that says that everyone feels that what they do is just a drop in the ocean, but the ocean would be so much less if it were missing that drop. So it's true. This is precisely what we're talking about here at Earth to Marrakesh. We're about bringing the voices together, bringing voices from all over the world. Whether you're here at COP or somewhere else in the world, if you couldn't make it to Morocco, we're here to bring your voices together for these world leaders that are meeting right now, they're meeting today, to talk about how we can move from words to action on climate action and talking about implementing the Paris Agreement. So, there are some uncertain days ahead. People don't really know what's to come. What can people do? What can civil society? What is Climate Reality Project doing to help promote, protect, and urge further action on the Paris Agreement in the years ahead?
Well, we're doing two things. First, around the world, we now have 10 branch offices. We structured ourselves because we knew that after the Paris Agreement, we needed to be in a lot of places in the world. The Paris Agreement is an unusual agreement, but it's the bottoms-up agreement. There's no international enforcement. Countries came in and committed and said, we're going to reduce our emissions by a certain amount. No guarantee they'll do it. We now have to make sure that the countries do that and implement it. So in Climate Reality, we're going to be working, and I think other groups will too, to make sure that the countries have a plan, how they're going to reach their commitment, that they have the laws they need to reach their commitment, that they have the public support they need to reach their commitment. And then in 2020, when we have to strengthen the agreement, we'll be doing the same thing on the strengthening side. In the United States, of course, we've got a new challenge because we have a president who during the campaign said he was a climate denier. And we may see the federal government drop out of this to some degree. But we can still make great progress in the United States at the state level, at the local level, at the city level. We can get thousands of businesses to commit to reducing their emissions. We can get people to be more energy efficient. We have programs like 100% renewable programs. We're trying to get cities to become 100% renewable, businesses to become 100% renewable, college towns to become 100% renewable. And every environmental group has some sort of programs like this who are involved in it. So all of us working together can still make progress in the United States. Our goal in the United States, even if we have a 4-year gap in federal action, that in 2021 we'll be ready to step back in and we'll be able to meet our commitments in 2025 despite this election. And we're confident that will happen.
Thank you so much. As you say, the great news is so much momentum has already built up. We're seeing advances being made, records being broken every year, records broken last year in the renewable energy sectors. We're seeing businesses come on. We're seeing the connections being made by all sorts of sectors. Health, we're seeing the health impacts. We're seeing the impacts on economy, on poverty, on development. So the great news is this train is moving forward one way or the other. We're really looking forward to seeing how we can support it. As you say, the Paris Agreement is bottom up, top down. Isn't working. The key is the mobilization of the public sector, private sector, government policymakers as well. So as you say, the individual is more important now than ever in some ways, because public policy requires public pressure. So it's going to take pressure from individuals and public on leaders, holding them accountable, holding them to the commitments that they made. And frankly, we can't just meet the commitments of the Paris Agreement. We've got to exceed them. A lot of people have shown that scientists have shown that the commitments as they currently stand aren't going to keep us below the target of 2 degrees. So we're going to have to meet those and then some. So it's really going to take, this is on our leaders, but this is on us as well. Would you say that's fair to say?
Yes, that's true. I mean, the Paris Agreement recognizes, the parties recognize in this agreement that the commitments that were made were not adequate. The studies show in between global warming somewhere between 2.7 and 3 point something, let's say 3.2 degrees centigrade. So what they did is they created a structure that enabled us to correct them. In 2020, the parties are required under the agreement to come in with new stronger commitments. So again, we've got to all make sure that happens. We've got to all work together to do this. We were saying that support is building. Really you've got to make this kind of change happen, a critical mass together. And we're confident that's happening for 3 reasons. One is the cost of renewable energy is rapidly dropping every year. In the United States, in most of the world now, renewable energy is either cost competitive with fossil fuel-based energy or will soon be cost competitive. And that really fundamentally changes everything on this. Almost every country in the world now can switch to renewables in a way that benefits their economy, not hurts it. We're going to be able to say soon that transitioning to a clean energy economy will lead to cheaper, cleaner, more reliable energy that will benefit the country's economy, create jobs, and make the country more competitive. That's a pretty compelling message. At the same time, public support is moving to this. Every poll shows it. In the United States, in the last year or two, I think 19% more Republicans said that they cared about climate change than was the case 2 years ago. Our election really wasn't about climate change, or it might have been different. But even in the Republican Party, they're saying that, and we want strong Republican support for what we're doing. We have to be bipartisan on it. And of course, Mother Nature is relentless. She will not let us, unfortunately, lose sight of the fact that we are really hurting ourselves by not addressing this issue.
Well, as you say, bipartisan climate action and climate change supersedes party lines. This is not a red or blue issue. Climate change will impact all of us, and it's going to take all of us to solve the issue. Well, I know you're very busy. Thank you so much for joining us. You're really conveying the messages that we're saying here at Earth to Marrakesh, which is the role of the individual, the focus on climate action, and highlighting the fact that there's inspiring work already being done all over the world. We're seeing sectors stepping up because it's good for the planet, but it's also good for business. So thank you, Ken Berlin, for joining us. To learn more about Climate Reality Project, we urge you to follow them on social media and join the conversation today with #Earth to Marrakesh. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.